Richard Barbieri, welcome to 69 Face of Rock. How are you doing today?
Very good, thank you. Nice, relaxing Sunday afternoon.
Excellent. Now, Richard, how did you mentally and musically get ready for Hauntings, your new album?
Well, I was trying for 2 years to get something started, but nothing was happening. There was no kind of inspiration or any great kind of pieces that I'd written, and I just kept trying. You can't force it. And then one day, after nearly 2 years, there's just a combination of sounds that I really loved and the concepts that started coming to me. Started thinking a lot about things and ideas came. And once that happens, the process is then very quick. So I made the album in about 2 months.
Hmm. Now, you've been making records for many years.
Hmm.
Now, is there a pattern or ritual to your creative process?
Well, no, no, I've never really worked to schedules or to kind of help my profile. Um, So if it happens, it happens, and that's the way it's always been. There are things like tours or that are undertakings that you have to do. There are certain schedules that you have to keep to, but for my own music, no, I've always just I leave it until something happens, something comes through me, something is there that's interesting me, and then I get out as much music as I can in that period of time.
Mhm. Now, Hauntings appears to be very personal with its balance of dark themes and more happier, uplifting sounds. How much
Hmm.
of you is in there, and or what emotions were you trying to code into the music?
Yes, well, it was a case of capturing these kind of memories, nostalgic kind of memories that I had, um, and also nostalgic memories that weren't real.
Mhm.
That we sometimes have a nostalgia for things that we didn't really experience, but we still look back and we think we feel something about this era or that time period or that event. So it was a combination of that. It was also trying to put into music the visualization of my dreams. I have recurring dreams, so I go to certain places, certain time periods. It happens again and again. There are people there that I've never met in this life that I see there. Um, so it was trying to capture all these kind of things that haunted my mind,
Mhm.
occupied my mind. Good, and nothing really negative on there, just quite emotional feelings.
Mhm. Now, this whole concept of future nostalgia, when did you first start to experience that?
Well, the future nostalgia is something called hauntology,
Mhm.
and there was a book that I read. I can't remember the author now, but it was very interesting, and it was about imagined futures that would never happen, and a certain sadness for this, a kind of nostalgia for a future that can't be. Um, that was quite interesting, but mainly the process was looking backwards to things that have happened in the past and to kind of places I go that are definitely in a certain era in the past.
Mhm. Are you someone who meditates? If so, how is meditation affecting your take on music?
I don't meditate, but I think I'm at my most creative when my mind is empty.
Mhm.
I think if you're too conscious about the process that you're in the middle of, then um, too many things get in the way. There are too many decisions to make, too many things to think of, um, and it all becomes a little bit sterile for me. When I work best is kind of when I'm almost unconscious, during the process of making the music.
Mhm. Now, we spoke about future nostalgia. But what about the nostalgia, that is normal for people to have after all the years you've spent in music and just simply being alive?
Yes, I mean there's a kind of normal nostalgia that you feel for things that happen to you within your lifetime. Um, that's always with you, of course. But there's also this nostalgia that I'm feeling for a period before I was born. And it's kind of places where I go in my dreams. So, for example, there's two tracks on the album called Victorian Wraith and 1890. And 1890 is a sound design piece. Basically, I'm trying to create that place that I often go to
Mhm.
uh, in my dreams. And it's Victorian London. And I found a recording of the very first chimes of Big Ben, the Houses of Parliament from 1890. And I combined that with this kind of sample I had that I recorded of this thunderstorm, this torrential rain, and some old radio broadcasts. And I started to build up this sound world from that period.
Mhm.
And there's almost nothing really musical or structured within it. It's basically just sound design and just creating this other world as close as I could to my visualization in the dream.
Mhm.
On the other hand, Victorian Wraith, the track before it, is just a memory that I did have as a child when I used to see these ghosts, I suppose, apparitions that used to float around my room. And I didn't know at the time, but I know what they looked like and that they were dressed in Victorian attire. And that to me was very real. And that's always stayed with me. It was probably for a period of maybe 4 or 5 months, and then after that, I never saw anything again. So they're things that kind of stay with you even more than your own life experiences sometimes, where you like your adult life experiences.
I do have to agree with that, even based on my own experiences. Now, what kind of a progression do you see from your last album, Under the Spell, to Hauntings?
Um, well, this probably is not as musical
Mhm.
and as structured and as arranged as my other solo albums, but I think it's more successful in capturing the feeling that I wanted to get across and the visuals that I wanted to uh, translate into music. So it's almost like little mini film scores almost in this album.
Mhm.
So I actually think the sounds and the sound design and the simplicity is actually more successful than I achieved before in my other albums, even though it's more simple.
Well, sometimes less is more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's funny you say about feelings and visual because my next question would be the music on this album has a very visual feel. And
Hmm.
the question is, did you ever consider submitting any of these pieces for possible use for soundtracks or even creating music for soundtracks?
I've been trying for 45 years to do soundtracks, but it's never happened.
Okay.
It's a whole different process. In English, we have this saying called a closed shop. So it's kind of the same kind of people that they keep going to, and then people who know those people, and it's very difficult. I'm surprised that I've never been able to do a film score with the kind of music that I've made over the years, but that's just the way it's been. So it's an unfulfilled ambition.
Well, maybe one day it'll happen. I mean, listening to these tracks, almost can imagine what they could possibly illustrate. So right there, I mean,
Well, hopefully, but
yeah.
I don't know how many years I've got left, so they better hurry up.
That's right. Now, are there any specific sounds you've developed that you consider to be your signature?
I don't know if I can put it into words. I think people know when it's me. They kind of, I do have a sound of sorts, but um, I can't technically define any one specific sound. Um, I I just think people get a sense of, oh, that sounds like Richard. I don't know. I mean, that's the goal. That's what you do over a career. For me, it's to try to find your own voice,
Mhm.
find
Uh,
something hopefully that's unique to you. And I guess I just have an approach that hasn't really changed much over the years, but um, it's trying to introduce something different into a structure of a song or a piece of music. It's just trying to add something that, people kind of think, ah, what's that? That's interesting.
mhm,
That's always what I felt with music. I was always looking out for those moments where I'd hear a sound in a song or just this kind of texture in the background, and I just think, oh, I really love that. I wonder how they did that. You
mhm.
know,
In fact, what is your favorite gear of instrumentation that you use?
I got so much of it here.
I know, right?
It's it's all kinds of stuff. I don't know. It's like kind of
Oh boy.
on here and over there and around there. Um,
It's a keyboard cage.
yes, yes. Finally, I have everything to hand. So it's always a combination of things. Definitely a lot of analog, vintage analog, and new analog as well. Um, there's some very interesting things like this kind of Solar 42 that I've been using on the album. It's a very strange synth. It makes you work in a different kind of way. And this is old classic kind of semi-modular that I've had since 78, 79. I've also got a load of new stuff and software as well.
Mhm. I've noticed a lot of players, veteran players, are very much drawn to analog sounds. Why do you think that is?
Hmm. There's probably something to do with the kind of warmness they say, but it's more than that. I guess it's a case of you're plugging something in and you're going through oscillators and filters and controlled amplifiers, and um, it's a signal path that is different to if you're working with digital. You're working with numbers and menus and zeros and ones, and with software as well. So there's just a difference in the sound. I mean, there's impedance, different kind of amplification there's a different kind of saturation and distortion to the sounds.
Um,
Um, I probably can't articulate it very well, but you know when you're playing something, it's a tactile thing. It feels great, and as I say, it's like plugging in a guitar.
yeah.
I guess it's that kind of thing.
Uh, Even as a listener, I have to agree. I prefer those old amplifiers, old speakers. There's something about it that seems much more natural to me when I listen to music, as opposed to stuff I hear that's kind of condensed and whatnot. But anyways, one of the tracks on your album is titled "Artificial Obsession." It sounds
Hmm.
sort of prophetic in regards to how much control artificial intelligence is already exercising. What is your take on that?
Yeah, that's the one track on the album that kind of was looking into the future,
Mhm.
with a little bit of humor, really. There was a voice that I used on it from it's this girl that I use her voice on a lot of my music. It just seems to cut through really well, and I like her poetry. I like her lyrics, and this was kind of like a very sweet sort of love song, not a song, but a sort of love poem. But when I started kind of messing around with the voice, slowing the voice down and starting to process it, it started to become a little bit more sinister. and the words took on a different meaning almost. And it reminded me very much of like a David Lynch movie, kind of like Twin Peaks or something, where
Yeah.
everything's slightly slowed down and unreal. And I put that into this piece that I had already written, and it was almost like a song was taking shape. And to me, it very much sounded like a kind of AI robot, like an AI robot girlfriend type thing. So in my mind, it was something from the future. It was like maybe 2060 in the future with this robot from 2030 who had become useless now and was just kind of left in this room in this old house, wandering around saying all these kind of love poetry.
Mhm.
And it just seemed like a very kind of, I don't know, perverse kind of dystopian future
Yeah.
type thing.
I'm sure that concept is going to be probably explored in years to come, even in the movie industry. What are perfect toys?
Well, they're those sort of old kind of Victorian, like mechanical toys that kids used to have at the turn of the century, and they were always with springs and kind of so you would wind them up, and it's kind of what happens at night after it goes dark and everyone's asleep, and the toys start to kind of make these sounds, and the springs start moving, and you hear all these little mechanical movements.
Mhm.
So I was trying to create this kind of little world with all these kind of little musical boxes and creaking kind of toys and squeaking things, and as if they'd kind of have their life of their own.
Yeah. Um, yeah. The album ends with a new simulation, and that's a
Mm,
concept very reflective of what the humanity is chasing these days.
mm.
What's your opinion?
Yeah, it's a universal thing. It's like a matrix type thing, isn't it? That the thought that we're possibly living in a simulation of some sort, and sometimes it seems impossible to believe. But on the other hand, if you think in maybe 20 years' time, we could be wearing kind of headsets and spend all day living a different life because we can create with AI, we can create our own worlds. So in theory, you could be living more of your waking hours in another world than your own, in another reality, which kind of makes you think, well, then aren't there aspects of this life that are some kind of a simulation? I mean, everything isn't what we really see it as, is it? It's all made up of atoms and particles, and everything is movable. Even our bodies, we haven't got the same cells that we had 20 years ago.
Correct.
You know, things are movable, and it's just looking deep into that and just thinking, but in a positive way.
Yeah. No, everything
Just
is
thinking this
evolving.
is and it's quite uplifting as the last track of the album as well.
Mhm. Do you plan any live presentation for this album?
Not immediately. I think immediately I'm going to have some listening events,
Mhm.
playback events, because it's been mixed in Dolby Atmos as well. So I think there can be some nice immersive kind of playback events in studios and nice spaces. And also some vinyl, kind of nice vinyl lounge, informal kind of listenings and get-togethers and chats. That maybe is what I'd do at first, and then look toward later in the year
Mhm.
or even next year, possibly thinking about doing something live.
Yeah. Now, changing topic a bit, not too long ago, you reunited with Stephen Wilson and Porcupine Tree.
Hmm,
What was that experience like for you?
great. I really enjoyed it.
Mhm.
It was it was really nice to get back to making a new album that was a really good album,
Mhm.
far better than The Incident, which was the last album we kind of left it on for 10 years. So I think we made a better album, and I think we made a different sounding album, but still, it still had the Porcupine Tree DNA. And we got to tour again, which was great,
Mhm.
and so much more enjoyable than the previous time that we toured. And such a good reaction from the audience. Our audience had tripled during the 10 to 12 years gap.
Mhm.
So that was kind of a surprise for us as well. So we were playing much bigger shows than we thought we would.
Mm. That's fantastic.
Mm.
Now, in that decade, what do you think you missed about working and interacting with Stephen?
Um, well, it forced me more to concentrate on my own stuff, which was good. And during that time, I was always sending Stephen music anyway.
Mhm.
I always do. And so he was saying, "Yeah, it sounds great, but you should put it on a solo album." And then I thought, well, then okay, obviously there's no Porcupine Tree in the near future, so I started sort of writing more material on my own, doing my own shows, and well, just carrying on outside of that, just forgetting really about Porcupine Tree for a while.
Mhm.
But as I say, we kept in touch, always sent each other music, so eventually things were happening. Gavin and Stephen had been working a lot during that period as well, so
Mhm. Correct.
it already started the process.
Now that you did it once, will there be a chance of another Porcupine Tree reunion in
We've
years?
been writing. We've had writing sessions every so often, and we're trying to get a collection of tracks that sound really new, different for us again. Um, and we'll see how it shapes up. I think it's more likely we'll make another album than not.
Mhm. In fact, how different is Richard Barbieri as a band member as opposed to a solo artist?
Um, Not that different, really. I like working with other people. Even when I'm a solo artist, the most interesting parts of making a solo album is when other musicians play. That for me is more interesting. So I've always been more of what you call a team player.
Mhm.
I enjoy working with other people. I enjoy hearing what I do in context of other people's work as well. I find doing solo albums and solo work, it's quite lonely. It's not. I find it more enjoyable and more fulfilling when I work with other musicians.
That makes sense. Let me ask you about your other band, Japan. So, what would you say was your biggest achievement when working with Japan?
Um, I suppose the biggest achievement was making the final studio album,
Mhm.
Tin Drum, I guess, because it went against the whole musical style of that time. It was something that stood out as being very different. There was no concession to making a commercial record. We released a single Ghosts, which was the most uncommercial of all the tracks, but we still managed to have a hit with that. So it was very satisfying to have the commercial and the critical success while making quite experimental alternative music.
Yeah.
And that was the direction we were always going to go anyway. We were never going to be kind of pop stars, that type of thing. We weren't going to carry on in that way. We had been in fashion, we'd been in fashion, out of fashion, back in fashion, but all of that didn't interest us very much. All that we wanted to do was be in the studio making exciting and interesting music.
Yeah, and you sure did that. Those are great records. Now, it seems like Japan called it a day just as your career was actually taking shape. Why was that?
Oh, it's the same for a lot of bands, I think. Um, Things start to fall apart when you get everything that you want, when you achieve what you're trying to do. When you're all in it together at the beginning and you're working your way up, it's always more fun. It's always more enjoyable. The friendships are always closer. Um, More successful you get, more things happen. There's more outside influences. It's harder to keep things together, put it that way.
Mhm.
I think it happens with all bands.
Yeah. But you did give it another try as Rain Tree Grow in 91, and that didn't last either. Like again, great time, great music, and it kind of went nowhere.
Yeah, well, it was a kind of yeah, a sort of a repeat in a way. Very enjoyable making the album. Good atmosphere in the studio. Just as things were beginning, we could see the finishing line getting towards the end. Then things started getting a little bit tense, and all the
Mhm.
same things came up again.
Yeah. Um, so how was maybe working with David Sylvian comparing to, let's say, working with Steven Wilson? What would you say the traits are for both of those artists?
Well, fairly similar in that I had good dialogue and understanding with both of them. They both like experimental music. They both like electronics, and they both could understand what I was doing. Whereas other members of the band maybe weren't too sure. But we had a musical language that worked. And so they always gave me the time, the space to do stuff. And so they would be the closest kind of partner, if you like, within the group for me. I mean, in terms of the way they work is probably different. In David's very quite methodical, quite likes to explore all the different avenues. Um, and Stephen is very quick, very pacey and quick in his creative process. Makes very quick decisions and kind of gets things done. But yeah, not dissimilar, and also kind of the arguments as well are similar with both.
Mm.
There's always that aspect as well, and that's just because you care about what you're doing, and so yeah. But creatively, very positive for me, and I'm very lucky to work with both of them.
Definitely. So finally, you gave so many years to the music. What else is there to look forward to?
Well, that's a good question. With the world the way it is at the moment, I'm not sure what there is to look forward to. Um, you just have to kind of do your own thing and try to find meaning and satisfaction in your own work. And I really don't know. I wouldn't want to be a young person these days. I'm almost kind of glad that I'm the age that I am and that I've had the kind of life that I've had because it's been amazing and there are so many things have happened during the last 50, 60 years. Um, so many developments, so much great art. But I kind of feel a bit sorry for kids now because it's a very uncertain future.
It sure is. It sure is. Well, Richard, thank you for this wonderful chat and good luck with the new album.
Thanks a lot. I enjoyed it.